Ready to go? I guess we should start with the pledge. If the mayor would lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is this considered a special meeting, Penny? It's a work, oh, the special meetings. I brought the agenda. Just remember that, but anyway, it's here somewhere. Somewhere. Anyway, we are here to interview our two finalist candidates for city manager. It is Wednesday, February 17th, and we started at 6 o'clock. So I'll just review the process for a minute. First, we're going to take 15 minutes. We had received 38 separate questions, not from 38 people, but 38 separate questions. Obviously, we could not answer them all within an hour. Well, I mean, we could, the candidates couldn't answer. Nobody could answer them within an hour. So we're going to need to cut them down somewhat. I'm just going to say that some of the questions were not questions of a city manager. They were more questions of a political candidate. The city commission makes policy, and the city manager fulfills those policies with his staff. So some of the questions were, and a couple of them were just totally inappropriate. I don't know how else to put it. So we will be going through those questions and hopefully reach some consensus on a few that we will ask. And then we will also review our sessions that we held one-on-one.
professors and that kind of thing as well. So I wouldn't want to restrict an individual if he's saying that, or, you know. I guess it depends on how broad you're talking about.
Outside consulting can
Yeah.
be huge.
And also,
Can mean a lot of different things.
yeah, you can't put those two together. They're both very specific to those gentlemen, so.
And we're not
You
doing
can't-
that, so
right,
the answer is
so-
no. Okay. I put them together as number 23. So both of you who have had months to investigate the city, its residents, the town, blah, blah, give us your top 5 issues. Didn't we already address
Same as
that?
above.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah. That's the same as number 3. 25. Can you tell me when I can get my street paved? Are we agree?
Now,
Can you tell me when you get the street paved is 25? 24 is about investigating. Oh, I skipped 20, no, 22. We skipped 22. I'm sorry, Penny. 22 was on the, after the bridge and parking. Pay for maintenance, beach maintenance using. I guess that could be good. All right. All right. All right. Okay, I'm sorry if I screwed you up. All right, so that's 22, this is 23. And 24 is about the street being paved and is not doing that.
Sure, neither one of them know where the wrong thing.
Most people who live beachside don't know where Marlin Lane is. 25 then. Can we agree that 25, 26, and 27 are not appropriate?
yes, no.
For the public's knowledge, the questions had to do with national politics and a lot of the feelings that are going on around the country. So have nothing to do with us hiring a city manager. Then going on, how will the new city manager review and implement a path forward to clear the impediments for reopening the boat? This is about the marina.
That's not
Right. Okay, how would you have employees become more active identifying and resolving violations to city ordinances and codes?
I'm good with that.
Yes.
same here.
And it's really the same as, when we get to it, I'll say which one it is. What are your thoughts on sending out a survey to all city Flagler Beach taxpayers regarding the possibility of having Flagler County assume jurisdiction of the police and fire?
They need to know more about it before they can make that call.
I also think it's a commission thing, not a city manager thing.
No from me.
Oh, yes,
Throughout Flagler Beach, there are several vacant and occupied properties, overgrown. That's the one I thought should be combined with the other one about code enforcement.
Yeah, they're kind of one and the same.
Okay. What are your thoughts on establishing a reverse 911 protocol? We also have one. But we do one too. Yeah, we have Code Red, the county has theirs. I get 75 phone calls every time it drizzles, which is a good thing. I'm not criticizing. Last year we were forced to have swales dug in front of our house. Basically, the question is, if there's a big project, would the residents be notified?
I think that's a legitimate question.
Yeah, fair question.
Very.
Yeah, I had
Read the whole
that
thing
on
about
there.
swales.
That's the part I had, footsteps.
What steps we can take.
Right, the last sentence there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
What ideas do you have as far as our dilapidated wastewater treatment plant?
It's a fair question. They both toured it, is my understanding.
Or at least talk to?
Yeah,
think they
it
need-
would be interesting to see what they come up
Yeah.
with.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts on rebuilding the pier and the financing for same? Did
I
we
don't
talk-
think they've been briefed enough to understand what's available and what's been thought about and all that. I don't think it'd be a fair question to ask.
Okay. And do you plan on living in Flagler Beach? They have to, so that's not even
Part of
a
the
question.
ordinance.
And the last one, playgrounds. They want to improve parks and budget for improving parks and playgrounds.
Yeah, there's two questions at the end of this.
Right.
That I think we probably just need to look at those. I think both of them are legitimate.
Hmm? Everybody good?
Do you think
Yes.
what
Which
the
part of the
park
question
is?
we're talking about, just the last two questions?
I just combined it all into,
Oh, I see.
into one.
But
Yeah.
do you feel the
Could be
quality
combined in
start
one.
there?
Yeah. that's
And
what I
then
would-
to make, add an S to the park in the second question.
Yeah, just parks in general.
Right.
Right.
Debbie, you good?
Yes.
Okay. Well, a little over.
Candidates have not heard the wastewater treatment.
They have not. Okay.
Did you just say?
Neither candidate has
One
toured.
has,
Yeah, okay.
one has not.
Yeah, I
Oh,
thought
one
it-
hasn't.
So you have yeses to 38, 37, 34, 33, 29, 17, 16, 17, 8, 4, and 3.
I got a lot of scribbles on my paper here.
I've got a number.
You're gonna have to read these.
Maybe we'll each get a chance to ask one for ourselves.
Yeah,
Is that the
when we're
plan?
asking the questions, I think, am I supposed to be asking questions? I forgot how this was.
We nominate Jane.
Do you want to take turns asking them?
We nominate Jane.
Huh? You nominate me?
Nominate Jane.
You've already just read them all, so.
You're,
Okay.
you're familiar with them, and consistency is always good.
Commissioner, or Chair, I think you should read the questions, and if we have questions outside
Okay.
of that, we can ask.
Yeah, the
her.
one thing I do want to keep in mind, especially since we're already 10 minutes off,
Time.
is that you want time at the end, I think you want time at the end to go over your one-on-ones, okay?
And I am using the timer, the 60 minutes.
Okay. So,
Prepared both candidates.
good. Okay, hi Drew.
Good evening.
Drew, it's push to talk, so when the light's green, it's good to go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, to review what we're doing, Mr. Driscoll, this is Drew Driscoll, those of you who haven't seen him yet. He'll get 3 minutes to introduce himself and tell us about his experience and why he wants to be part of Flagler Beach. And then we will have 55 minutes to ask questions. And then, Drew, you'll have 2 minutes to wrap up at the end.
So you get 55 and I only get 2. Sounds like.
No, in that 55, you
I
get to do
understand.
most of the talking.
Yeah.
So, okay, so, Penny, you ready to start? Okay, so Drew, tell us about yourself.
Well, excellent. Thank you for having me here this evening, and both to the commission and to the community that came out today. My name is Drew Driscoll. I am currently the Deputy City Manager for the City of Daytona Beach, and my secondary job there is the Fire Chief. In the City of Daytona Beach, I currently oversee over 130 personnel, $18 million budget, 11 million visitors each year, in addition to helping my city manager oversee all the other city agencies and budgets. So it keeps me busy. When I'm not doing that, which is rare, I do have 2 daughters. We've been coming to Flagler Beach for many years. I used to grow up surfing out here. And on the weekends, me and the family come up. We've enjoyed many of the restaurants in town. And then about a year ago, trying to reflect upon what I wanted in life, the culture and the identity of Flagler Beach spoke to me. And so I began to take a look around Flagler Beach. And as I did so, it really spoke to me. It had the ability to communicate with many of the people in the community, plus people that I know that live and work here, and nothing but positive things. And then unfortunately, with Larry's passing, the opportunity became available, and had some consideration, spoke to my manager, who's also my mentor, and between that conversation, I was encouraged to go ahead and apply. And out of 57 applicants, I believe down to 2 this evening. This is my first and only application to be a city manager. That is because I've never seen myself as a city manager. And I want to clarify that. I've been a boots on the ground worker my entire life, but anytime someone needed something from me, I would step up and take it on. And I think people see that in myself, and they're always pushing more and more and more. And I gladly take on the challenge, and it's been a great personal development opportunity. And it's brought me here this evening, and I thank you very much for giving me a chance to introduce myself to you in the community.
Great. So the first questions we ask will have come from the community.
Excellent.
Okay. Kind of have a combo to begin with. The first person asked, will you promise to put first and foremost our little beach island as a small town beach city? That's most important job to all residents. And then more of a question would be, how will you preserve the small beach town charm of Flagler Beach, yet advance such things as infrastructure and amenities for the residents?
As I mentioned, I come from, or currently work for the city of Daytona Beach. With that comes with this impression of large growth and strip malls and tourism hanging out of the trees. I think what I enjoy the most about Flagler Beach is it lacks all of that. Extreme density, extreme overcrowding, extreme trash and tourism that comes with it. And so within Flagler Beach, I also enjoy the small town coastal charm that's unique to Flagler Beach. You know, especially being located so close to 95, you would think a lot of people would want to come and enjoy Flagler Beach for all that it has to offer. As I mentioned, coming here over the years, I think myself and my family would come back very often to retain or to enjoy that small town charm. As far as retention of that, we understand society changes. We understand with the global pandemic that Florida is getting bombarded with new residents on a daily basis. I think I know we're the #2 most populous state in the union, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So then it comes down to growth management. How do you maintain your identity as that small town? At my previous interview, I mentioned Capitola Beach after speaking one of the community members. And that caused me to research Capitola Beach, how were they able to preserve their identity in close proximity to large metropolitan areas such as San Francisco. And they actually have a similar setup to Flagler Beach, that they have geography on their side. So if I were to correlate Capitola Beach to Flagler Beach, the island is their historic downtown charming area. Over there, it's separated by a creek and a roadway, plus they have some topography differences. And then on the other side of their town, or the west side here, they allowed for development. You know, if we take a vision of what the future looks like here in Flagler Beach, let alone Flagler County, we understand that growth is going to occur. But we need to prepare ourselves to manage that growth, to make sure that it speaks to what the community's desire is. Some of those things are as simple as parking. With parking, you actually control the amount, you meter the amount of people that visit your town each day. If we, for instance, St. Augustine, they had a desire for more visitors each day, so they built a parking structure to allow for that greater capacity. I don't believe in hearing from the community and this commission that that is the desire. So through parking, and when I say metered parking, I'm not saying pay for parking, I'm just saying as a methodology to meter that growth. We understand as growth begins to occur on State Route 100, that is going to be impactful to city services as they come over for the day to enjoy the local restaurants and shops and enjoy the beach, which brought us all here. That is impactful to both Chief Downey and Chief Pace's EMS services. It's impactful to our water system and our roadway. So we have to begin the plan or develop that plan for how we're going to tackle that, and a lot of that comes down to our infrastructure needs. And we understand with financing, we can't, this isn't an overnight job. We can't cut a check and install the water lines and new roadways and parking lots that we desire. But I think as currently demonstrated in the budget, a thoughtful forecasting of expenses and a savings plan to capture those programs that need to take place to take on the inevitable growth that it will occur outside the jurisdiction.
And I think you partially answered the next question, so feel free to. With one being the most important on a list of 5 priorities, what do you think are the top 5 issues that would require your immediate attention?
Well, top 5. So let's start with budget. I'm going to write them down so I keep track. For the community that follows, I've had the pleasure of watching or attending for the past 6 months. We have a very budget conscious commission. They understand that our citizens are not, they don't desire to be overtaxed. They want to make sure that that money is being spent responsibly. So as a new city manager, with whether it's myself or the other candidate, their first day is going to be digging into the budget because this is budget season. And it's just not about the numbers. We need to, as a city manager, either of us will need to understand the vision of the commission, and that is communicated from the community to the commission. And that's where we begin prioritizing and formulating a plan for the budget year. That is one of the top orders of business starting day one. If we start down the line, we have to look at growth management. As I mentioned in the last question, growth management, it will be here before we understand it, before we notice and recognize it, and we won't be able to afford it. So it is a smart idea to begin those conversations now, strategically speaking, to develop a plan on how we're going to address those items. When it comes to parking, I understand parking is a frequent conversation. This city has actually been progressive to have the shared pool lots. But again, as we reflect upon the growth management, how much parking do we want to have? Is it in the right locations? I know people don't enjoy walking far distances, so we always have to be mindful of where these parking locations are, but we have to maintain them, and we need to look at a mechanism for maintaining those parking areas. The next one I would reference is actually, I'll tie it back to the budget, and I'll make sure I give you a full 5. But the legislative change for $15 an hour minimum wage, that will be impactful to our budget. We have several employees that, I apologize for saying we, you have several employees that fall underneath that threshold. And so over the next 5 years, we need to forecast how to capture that increase in cost. For number 4, I think those who have lived through the hurricanes of Florida and have seen the destruction, we need to continue upon the plan and the positive efforts to better protect our community for natural disaster. And that is a challenge. We see the king tides come up, and there's not a wall large enough that is going to protect the community and our flood-prone areas from that. But what can we do smartly and intelligently to plan for those events? The hardening efforts of the sand dune has been phenomenal. I'm hoping to see, I'm not an engineer, and I don't claim to be an engineer. However, I've seen the ferociousness of the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm curious to see how they're going to uphold. But I believe the Army Corps of Engineers has put together a good product to preserve A1A. Staffing. When it comes to the staffing of Flagler Beach, I've had the opportunity over the past year and a half to engage many of the staff. And in case the community was unaware, you have a phenomenal city staff. They've been able to keep the train running through all of the challenges that the city has faced. Their loyalty is probably second to none, and as a city manager or manager in general, this is the team that you look to build. Are there improvements that could be made? Absolutely, there's always improvements. But I believe making sure that that team is strong and is dedicated to the mission, because we have several projects that have been on the burners for several years that have just failed to launch because some of these obstacles that we faced. So reprioritizing those projects, I would say, would be my fifth thing. We need to reconvene, because I wasn't a part of the conversation when those projects were placed on the burner. And if a project sits there for a year, that project has changed. And we all dislike having to come back and look for an increase in funding. We need to reevaluate those projects and, through priority, determine which ones need to take place now. I'm assuming they all need to take place, because that's how it always is. But how can we, if we're doing a water project, instead of just jumping on one water project and 8 months later doing another one, while everyone's mobilized, because mobilization for a project is an expense, could we tackle those two projects at once and get on the parking project perhaps at a later date? So prioritizing projects and getting them to actually launch would be my 5 priorities when I get here.
Thank you. The next question is with the number 8, right, Penny? Yeah. Okay. With the proposed new hotel in the city center, there are a lot of concerns about the city losing its quaintness, as the possibility of similar projects loom in the future, and this goes to the growth that you were talking about. Most residents are extremely concerned that what makes Flagler Beach a wonderful place to live will become lost as the small businesses become nothing but a real estate venture for a large investor. There's the concern that parking garages and additional condos and hotels will take over the current preserve areas and areas that are held dear to so many that live here. I would like to know your stance on growth. Well, I guess you kind of addressed this already. You stand on growth and how to manage it while protecting the shorelines, the preserve, and small town appeal.
Well, the first interesting piece about this question is my opinion. As a city manager, often my personal philosophy, it is not our opinion. We enact the will and vision of the commission, which of course is the will and vision of the community. I'm an advisor to the commission. I am the boots on the ground that get things moving. As far as if I was offering my opinion on the Flagler Beach Resort or the proposed project, understanding that there's that mix of feeling of losing the identity of Flagler Beach. From what I've seen in the conversations that surrounded the Flagler Beach Resort, I actually found it to be complementary to the community. Again, this is my opinion, and not everyone would agree with it. But finding that complementary development that fits into the community. It doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. It's not obtrusive. We have Veterans Park and then fall behind it the resort and the ocean. I think that it would not only bring more identity to Flagler Beach and who you are, I won't say we, I think it is helpful for that, especially when we talk about inviting our family members or friends from out of town, offering them another option to stay out. I assume from the conversations that the owner of the property has always been a member of this community and holds this community near and dear. And I would like to believe that they're not looking to throw Howard Johnson or Holiday Inn smack dab in the middle of downtown. I think as a member of the community, they're looking for something that is attractive, complimentary, and begins to actually, some of these projects, you'll hear words thrown around, catalyst projects. Catalyst is great if we wanted to grow, but I'm saying catalyst from improvement in the downtown core. We have some very neat wayfinding signs and to make it a walkable downtown area. And as we invite people into our town, we want them to park and stay. We don't want traffic. We don't want to be a town where you run your weekly errands. We want to be that destination. And you get them to park and enjoy all the local shops and amenities that the citizens find attractive. We also find that persons that may stay at the boutique style hotel and shop in the mom and pop small town businesses, they seem to be less obtrusive and less impactful than, let's say, I experienced in Daytona Beach. And so ideally, that is what you're looking for. If Daytona Beach it'd be a world of difference. But there can only be one Flagler Beach, and it's here. So again, offering my opinion, I'd want to understand their project more, understand how it could impact the city, both positive and negative, make sure that we've had concerns about the parking structure, make sure that the 35-foot height limit is maintained, and see how in partnership, a private-public partnership, how could they better improve our community?
Okay, thank you. This one should be a real short one. Would you commit to pursuing funds to bury our power lines to reduce visual pollution?
Again, as the manager, and I'm not trying to scapegoat the question or anything, but I act upon the will of the commission. I think that is a fair question, being on the barrier island and our constant threat of hurricane. But there's definitely a financial component to that. And so that would be well worth exploring because, again, as we talk about preparation for natural disaster, that is a component of that preparation. The longer we could keep power, quicker we could restore power. Power and healthy housing equals one's personal health. So it would definitely be a worthy conversation. I have a preference for underlining. However, there's a price tag that comes with it, and you hold the purse strings.
Okay. One of the challenges for the city of Flagler Beach is diverse revenue sources. What is your experience in diversifying revenue sources so as not to be dependent on the millage rate?
I think we had a similar question come up during the initial interview, and my current employer, actually 30% of our revenue source is from ad valorem. That's 30% that runs the city of Daytona Beach. So diversifying your revenue sources is very important. We do have opportunities, and there's impact fees here, and there's various reasonable fees all the way down to golf cart registration. But that's not gonna make it through the day. That's not gonna get us through the year. What I prefer is free money, and I say free money through grant dollars. With my current job, as my experience, we were able to enlist the services of a professional grant writer. The best part is it costs us nothing because that person's salary is written into the grant for an administration fee. But through that, we've received hundreds of millions of dollars to redo seawalls, redo streets, redo parks, do facility hardening activities. We have the local LMS grant that could replace the windows at the library down the street. There's a lot of opportunities, and some do come with cash match, but I'll gladly pay 10% of the project cost. So I think one of the first stages for me to assess would be, what is our grant experience and how could we improve upon that? Because I think we always can.
Oh, that makes it so much easier.
You know,
God bless you, Penny.
I wanted to add one thing to that,
Sure.
if I could. This past year, we've had a lengthy conversation about the gardens, and there's different thoughts and feelings about annexation. Again, with growth, the gardens is going to impact our community. It is going to bring people to our city streets. They are going to utilize our services, our parking lots, our roadways. Annexation, again, albeit ad valorem, if they're utilizing our services and being a burden to our taxpayer, folding them into our community might prove some benefit in sharing the burden amongst more people than just the select few.
How can urban sprawl prevention and wetland conservation be accomplished in Flagler Beach?
Again, if we're talking the small town coastal charm, we want to preserve many of our environmentally sensitive areas, but those environmentally sensitive areas also have alternate benefits. For natural disaster prevention, we have also the scrub and seagrass that is along the Halifax River. That actually is a filtration system to improve the water quality that we enjoy in the river. So you always have to be mindful of what is, when we're talking smart growth, you'll hear everyone loves their buzzwords. I'm no different, sorry. But when we talk about smart growth, we have to be mindful of those environmental impacts and preserving our identity. There are opportunities here. I think the last conversation, and I'll apologize for missing the name of the park where the conversation has been about the kayak.
Pal Parker.
Yes.
Irma and Pal Parker.
Oh, I just want to write that one down.
Wasn't Jesus.
Yes. I think the reason the conversation extended for so long and over such a period of time is people enjoy the environment and they don't want to see it overdeveloped. They don't want to see the whole world paved. And as we talk about these environmental sensitive areas and our wetlands, we want to make sure that we're preserving the identity of Flagler Beach. I think the community has spoken loud and clear about that. And again, I take my direction from the commission, but I believe that needs to always remain a focus here to preserve our community.
Have you ever worked with or provided consultations or otherwise been involved with developers?
I've been involved with developers. I'm not a consultant for developers. One of my projects right now is downtown Daytona Beach. And I believe I mentioned it earlier, but I'll give a brief summary of it. Downtown Daytona Beach once upon a time used to be a happening place. And then, of course, as typical, the world evolves and the malls come in, and next thing you know, downtown is abandoned. And there it sat, abandoned, deteriorating, no investment, both from public nor private. And so the City of Daytona Beach's commission had the vision to redevelop Beach Street and enhance it and make it into a vibrant destination. And that's where I come in. So we did not have new housing opportunities in downtown for greater than 40 years. And it's challenged to look for a developer, and normally it's not my job to target developers, but we needed to find someone to bring heads and beds, because with our local business community, they were missing that customer base that's important to sustain them through the years. So with the destination mindset, we began to do streetscape improvements, a road diet, and begin to also put in the infrastructure for the future development. Again, the numbers are very thin because it's an untested market, and we did have a developer lined up, and they backed out. And as of this morning, when I was meeting with them, we have a new developer on the line. I say developer in the context of my job at Daytona Beach. I think here's a different story, because we're not looking for the large multifamily complex. We're not looking for the high-rise hotel condominium. I think we're looking for something more complementary to the community, and whether that's infill housing, which is very important, current housing remodel and reinvestment in the existing stock. Those are a lot of things we could do. As far as other development, I'd encourage economic development. We have opportunities here to not only improve upon the look and feel and the enjoyment of the town, but also the economic opportunities for our residents, for employment. It is challenging. We understand that retail, for some, retail you could survive the business or survive off of retail. But we have opportunities of doctors and lawyers and the ever desirable technology community. If somehow we could capitalize on technology and bringing those services, as I'm sure everyone's experienced some cell phone issues in some areas, if we could capitalize on a technology hub, perhaps at I had a conversation earlier, in the old bank building. Yes, it is prime A1A frontage. However, some of the businesses that would come in of that level, they would enjoy that atmosphere. So it is an opportunity. So I would look for not only development opportunities that make sense and are complementary, following the vision of the community, but also economic opportunity.
Thank you. How would you have employees become more active identifying and resolving violations to city ordinances or codes, such as parking, speeding, non-road legal vehicles, and so forth?
You were an educator once, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I want to do over. I want to add number 5 to be code enforcement. So let's just say 6. So.
Sorry, you missed your chance. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
A mulligan. How about that? So, code enforcement. When we're talking about all the things that we enjoy about this community and what's lured me here, weekend after weekend, and now desiring to want to live and work here, you have to work consistently to maintain that charm, to maintain that feel, to allow people to enjoy the value of their property and not have it decline because perhaps a neighbor has an unkept yard or unpainted, or the ever so popular transmission in the front yard that doubles as a mailbox. So code enforcement, I understand we have one code enforcement officer, and I have not communicated this with your staff because I would want to get an understanding from them. But knowing that Chief Downey and Chief Pace, they're out there on the streets. They are out there seeing it. All city staff are out there seeing it. Anyone is able to report code violations. In Daytona Beach, as you could imagine, we have a wealth of code violations, and we ended up doing a online code site, or not a code citation, but a code complaint. And from that, through the community's help, we're actually able to deploy code enforcement officers to encourage people to mitigate the issue. I have a preference for trying to encourage those to address the issue without violation, but we know that eventually sometimes people will only react to when it begins to hurt them. And it's not going to put them in destitute situation. But just as that encouragement to be a friendly neighbor, to love your community, to participate in the charm and maintain that charm, that's important to all of us. So I would stick number 6 as my thing to work on.
We'll allow that.
Thank you.
What steps would you take to ensure that residents are notified prior to major undertakings such as a swale project in order to better educate them of an imminent need for such a project?
The death of city managers is lack of communication. I don't think I could stress this enough, that communication is key, not only to my potential bosses, the commission, but the community. If everyone could understand the vision that the city is taking, understand how these projects will impact them, benefit them, even if there is a minor inconvenience to that project, but the overall success of the project, the benefits it brings to them, I think it brings down a lot of the animosity and anger and frustration that communities are bound to feel. And I understand, if you tear up my road and didn't tell me about it, I'm going to be up here at the lectern yelling along with them. Maybe not yelling. But so communication is key. But we also have to understand our demographics. So communication has to take various forms, whether it's from, we're limited on print. However, we have a great opportunity here with Flagler Live, that they are consistently updating the site. There's fresh content multiple times a day.
He was in the room and
Yeah, this was not a shout out, so I think I got gigged on that on an article, so this isn't a shout out to Flagler Live, but it's important because they're a partnership in the community. They could get the word out. They have the readership, and so we need to make sure that our media is well fed of what's going on as they partner to get the word out. We have websites. I think, Madam Chair, at our interview, our one-on-one, having been here so many times over the years and surfed right at that pier, I never knew a radio station existed out there. We have the airwaves at our control. And of course, we have ever so popular social media. Another venture that we took on within my current employment was a newsletter. I think something is lost as print slowly evolves into technology media sources. We have the opportunity to print a bi-monthly city manager's update letter. This goes, of course, to the commission. It'd be posted on the website, and it is easily inserted in utility bills as we do at my current employment. So if we could communicate, I think it addresses a lot of, communicate and offer education. I think it offers a lot of advantages to our community, and we could actually have a productive conversation and they understand the vision.
yes.
Quick question. In light of what Penny told us about question number 10, you think it's still fair to ask that question?
I'll leave it
knowing
up
that
to the rest.
others. Well, yeah, I just thought maybe we might throw it out again for.
What if the,
If one's been.
Well, we could, let me ask it this way.
Okay.
We have a wastewater treatment plant that's not in very good condition. And we've been trying to get the money and working with different groups. And anyway, so the question would be, given that we have a wastewater treatment plant that needs help, what would you do? How's that?
So, and we've mentioned the gardens soon to come online as the newest water and sewer customer of the city. There's opportunities for partnership there. We also have impact fees that may be able to address some of it. However, if we go back to one of the alternative revenue source, free money, grant money. We have St. Johns River Water Management, we have DEP. There's other opportunities such as in Daytona Beach. We ended up becoming a host site for several experimental projects that aren't in service for the community, but through those, taking on those experimental processes, which I wish we could come up with a better name than tap to toilet, Please don't quote me. However, that's just with a long-term vision of what the needs may be as the Florida aquifer continues to get inundated with the growth. But from those experimental projects, they funded normal maintenance projects and improvement projects for our water, wastewater treatment facilities. So I would say that partnership with perhaps the new development, the gardens, if they're interested, it's worth having the conversation, but also alternative revenue sources used to pay for it. With a community of 5,000, we cannot continue to go back to the taxpayer every time we need something. And I think that's why the question came up through the community, that the well is only so deep. And then especially when you throw in a millage cap, not that I would ever dream of mentioning the millage cap here. I couldn't imagine what that would look like. It's not them, it's me, so blame me. But we need to look at, since we can't keep going back to the taxpayer, but they need the benefit of the water and sewer, I think we cannot look the community in the eye without honestly saying that we've explored all alternate revenue sources to fund these projects.
Not sure if you can totally answer the next question.
Yeah,
Do you-
we decided to change that.
Yeah, I thought so.
To
Take just the
both
parks.
city
Okay.
parks, yeah.
What quality, there was one, next question got a little specific that you would need to know. Do you feel that quality parks are an important feature in our city, and what would you do to make sure we have good quality parks?
I think we could just expand that to be quality of life. Quality of life is something that every community and every elected body has to assess, that what is the quality of life that we're looking to offer the citizenry. I could talk from my previous experience about fire. Do you want a fire truck on every corner, or is maybe 7 of them in a city of 70,000 sufficient? If the community does not wish to fund that is beyond what they enjoy for life, then that is something we don't do. With regards to parks, and this is going to be selfish, because I enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy the parks. I love green space. I'm as far west as I could get in Daytona Beach, so I could acquire my little piece of green space. So the investment in the park system isn't just for the benefit of the taxpayer, but not to sound corny, but it is for the benefit of our children. If we could engage with our youth and let them love the community they're raised in, they're more apt and more likely to remain in that community for generations to come. And I think a lot of people's childhood memories surround outdoor activities that they had with their family. But when it comes to parks, we don't want to pave over the world, because that defeats the entire purpose. There's a right time and place for the basketball court. There's a right time and place for the kayak launching. So I think investment into our park system, and also partnerships. We have a community. We've seen, this is not another shameless plug, but we've seen the All-Stars out doing the beach cleanup, and the local business community doing the beach cleanup. We understand that these community groups want to participate in their community. They want to maintain it. We saw the Christmas trees in Veterans Park. That's a great example. So how can we engage our community groups to also assist us in maintaining the beauty and charm of these natural resources?
Okay, and because we have some parks that need some upgrading, playgrounds kind of rusting, falling apart, do you feel that part of the budget should be allocated to that improvement to go along with your previous answer?
I would say I'd first have to hear the commission's priorities, as we have those projects already on the burner right now. If the funding is there, absolutely, because that is, again, a quality of life feature that is important to the community, and I think they've voiced that. But we'd have to be fiscally responsible and make sure that we could do it now, or are these other projects priorities. So I cannot promise that day one you're going to have a new swing set.
No?
I'd like to.
Oh, well. Okay, those were the questions from the public after we narrowed them down considerably.
And I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I come from a different community, and if we had 30-plus questions from 70,000 people, we'd be in total amazement. And I think that's kind of a testament to the community involvement here.
It is, definitely. Okay, so we started at 25 after, am I correct? 18 minutes. Okay, how about,
13 minutes, which is 5 minutes.
yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes we close?
2.
Okay.
So we have 18 minutes, so we have 16 minutes for what we wanted to ask. And Debbie, do you have anything you wanted to follow up with?
I do. I just have one question. Actually, I had multiple questions, but you answered almost all of them. As you know, on a daily basis, you're going to intertwine with all of our staff. Can you talk, and this is a question I asked you over the phone as well, can you talk a little bit about how your employees view you to date?
So I took the luxury of creating a website for my application to become the next city manager at Flagler Beach, and hopefully some of the communities had an opportunity to take a look at it. In there, I reference my time as a competitive teenage girls travel softball coach, and I'll tell you that is an interesting bunch to travel around the southern United States with teenage girls and teaching them softball and life skills and remembering where they put their scrunchies. But it's a thing. That's why I have a backpack full. But nonetheless, I relate it to that coaching. From a coach, the coach doesn't get the accolades. The coach isn't getting the trophy at the end of the game or at the end of the tournament. The coach's pride is seeing the success in their team. And I would tailor that into my leadership philosophy of a leader needs to develop those around them. Get the most success you can out of them. Help improve their life, improve their career outlook. Especially in this scenario, I had reached the Everest of my career, so to elevate those around me would be important. So within the coaching, lost for a word of what I want to call it, but within the coaching philosophy, I see it as someone that offers direction, offers guidance, offers an ear to listen to. As you can imagine, teenage girls do have a lot to say. And be there to develop them, encourage them, be there for them when they have a need that sometimes occurs outside of work. Rick was actually sharing a story of a city worker who had an unfortunate injury, and other city employees stood up for this individual's aid and offering some of their own personal leave, taking out of their own pocket to help a fellow coworker. I think as a city manager or a coach in this scenario, you strive your entire career trying to form that team bond. And as I previously mentioned, I think it was that team that persevered and helped pull the city through in support of the commission for the past year and a half. So for leadership and team purposes, I see myself as a coach, and yes, from time to time, coaches do get on their players, but you have to think long term. You can't just get on someone today and leave it. They're coaching opportunities, they're counseling opportunities to develop a better employee, and also to offer expectations, which go both ways. I need to offer my staff my expectations, and I also offer them what they can expect from me.
Okay, Eric, you have something?
Yeah. This is going to be different than the priority question you got, but it's along the same line. So the things that a city manager does, so let's say strategic management, budgeting, citizen interaction, lobbying, employee management, you have these pillars of the job. If you can, tell me what the pillars in your mind of being a city manager are, and if you can, put them in order and tell me why, because there's a lot of different things that are different important, they're different, of different importance to city managers.
Well, that is a spur of the moment question. But in all seriousness, so I'll actually start with the team, which sounds unique, because without the team, the city staff, no success could be had. It is on their backs and shoulders that push these items that have been handed down to us by the commission. Without the team, it does not happen. So having that strong team bond and understanding their strengths and weaknesses and areas where we could seek improvement, I would say is my number one priority. Number two, and it's not to place on number two, but the community. As we talked about earlier, the community could be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. And that's horrible to say worst enemy, because I sit before elected officials that are representative of the community. But the best way to strike that alliance is through communication, and not just one-way communication. You have to sit there and hear it. That's why I mentioned the Manager Mondays idea of going out to local businesses every Monday, and being available for whoever wishes to come in and speak and ask questions, to ask them of me. So making sure that the community is a member of the program and not an outcast that's getting told and dictated to, I think that's, for management, that'd be a priority. 3, budget. Fiscal integrity is important to the community. It's important, definitely important to the commission. It dictates what and how we can do things. If we can't afford it, well, you can't always just shrug your shoulders because it's probably a priority. We need to seek ways that we can afford it, whether it's through alternate revenue sources or partnership. But maintaining a sound budget is essential, not only to get through this current year, but as we talked about our future needs of growth management and preparation for natural disasters, parking, staffing. We need to be mindful that those things are on the horizon. We need to plan for them. I previously spoke about strategic planning. I think that's just an important component to make sure that we're all on the same page. And anytime you need to make an expenditure, you have to validate that against the strategic plan to make sure that you're staying on the priorities. Number 4, infrastructure. The reason government exists is to provide those services that the private sector cannot profit from. That is Drew Driscoll definition. I don't know if anyone else enjoys that definition. But through that community collaborative effort, we all put our money into the coffee can to provide these services for the community. And infrastructure is not just water pipes and asphalt. It is our police. It is our fire and EMS services. It is our library. It is our parks. So I would say that we need to, now I'm trying to find the right word that I want to say, but understanding that government is always not the solution for everything. I think through the finding a way to be fiscally responsible, as we're talking about with the budget, and having the community's involvement, I would say that would be a priority for a manager, and I'll end there so we could.
Rick?
An easy one for you.
Excellent.
During our city manager search, we've had several applicants drop out. What is it about our town that has held your interest and brought you to this, through to this point of our process?
Again, those are selfish reasons of my personal desire to enjoy the same culture and ingrain myself in the identity of Flagler Beach. That's what brought me here. The position wasn't available when I first started looking. But of course, my career has been in government management, and all the way from riding a fire truck to deputy city manager today. So I think a lot of it has to come down to that culture and maintaining that small town charm. It sounds easy just to say that because it's, as I mentioned before, it's written on the wall behind me. But for me, I'm not looking for a stepping stone. Sure, there are other opportunities, but you're not going to find me in Orlando or trying to look for something larger, because I don't think that's what speaks to myself and my family. I have 2 daughters, as I mentioned, and they are my world, and they're getting older, and they're going to be leaving me shortly off to college, and that's great, so they could see all the opportunities they could obtain in their future. As far as the other city managers go, I don't know what it is that escapes them and what they missed. Hopefully they visited and didn't just flip through the job listings like, oh, city manager, sounds good. You've seen me here at the commission meetings, and you've seen my investment in time. Not that that's a qualifying factor, but for me, it needs to be more than just employment. People could seek employment, but if you miss out on that community component and what's important, and if that doesn't speak to you, you're not going to find success here. As far as the other candidate, I think the other candidate is a very qualified individual. More years of experience than myself, and he has spent time in the area, and I think he too understands Flagler Beach, and I know I shouldn't say it, but I think it's a testament to the city of Flagler Beach that you were able to find 2 candidates that see what is important to you.
Ken?
Yeah, Mr. Driscoll, I appreciate the time that we spent last week, about an hour or so, I guess, talking about different things. And some of the issues that I discussed with you, in particular, as far as my priorities, were economic development, revenue streams, and grants. And you've covered all of those, and I guess that, you know, one of the things I'd be looking for is extraordinary type of things that you would probably consider in regard to revenue streams in a small town like this, because they are very limited. So if you had anything that you would, off the top of your head, come up with, or just 1 or 2, I'd be interested in that, as well as when we talk about economic development here too, we talked about, you know, high-tech type jobs that could conceivably be brought to the community here. I mean, my daughter and son-in-law, they work from home, and, you know, they're tech people, and he's an engineer, and those types of jobs I think would be to a great advantage. I don't surf, and I'm not going to try, but I mean, I think it would be incredible to be able to work in a building like the bank building, lunchtime, go out, grab some surf, and then come back in and go to work. I mean, those are the kinds of things I would, and I think we talked about, that would be dynamic as far as attracting younger individuals to the town. So just in respect to those, if you had any ideas off the top of your head, I'd be interested in hearing those. But if not, I know this is off the cuff, but just some things I'd like to consider.
Well, one, you should definitely try surfing. It's well worth it.
I'll stick with driving cars and boats.
That is part of the appeal. I've not spent a lot of time in the water over the past several years, and I think it takes away from my soul. So, but that's enough about surfing. As far as we're talking about alternate revenue streams, I think I mentioned when it came to the water and wastewater plant, of looking for those partnering agencies that not only have funds, whether it's state and even sometimes federal funding, but also it is within their mission to improve those areas that may be impactful to the environment. So that is one alternate revenue source. As far as the technology, the best part of any community, I think it's the diversity of people, and it's not always diversity of color, diversity of race, diversity of religion, diversity of age. I always brag about the fire service, that it is this crazy social experiment where people from all walks of life are forced to live together for 24 hours a day with no escape from each other. But through that, great conversation ensues. When it comes to the technology sector, and you mentioned a younger employee, I think the community benefits from that addition, because it adds an element of a vibrant community. It adds the element of people to patronize local businesses, but also they have the opportunity to learn from those senior to them. And those senior to them who have been here with some tenure, they would teach them that appreciation of the community, what brought them here, and not to destroy it and not to overdevelop it, but to enjoy what we have here and preserve that. So technology opportunity, or even more higher end business, whether it's lawyer, doctors, something along those lines, because it also brings with it economic development for an individual. And that does translate to our local businesses and of course the city.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Linda, do you have anything?
322.
I don't have anything.
I will forego some of my closing statement.
No, I had my one-on-one with you. I was happy with the answers. This is our third interview, so I think everything's been pretty much covered.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So you have 2 minutes to wrap up.
Okay. When I set out on this personal journey, it was outside of the box for me. I've been with my current employer for the past 22 years, and I enjoy going to work there. I enjoy the people I work with. Days have struggles. I think I couldn't communicate back to Liz by email the other day until 11 or 12 o'clock at night, because some days just happen that. And I think Rick has been enjoying that pleasure lately in the interim role. But so it was hard to actually put my name in the hat, and not knowing where I stood, and understanding that there's always going to be many great candidates out there with experience superior to mine, tenure superior to mine. But that has been my career path the entire way. I was the youngest fire chief, youngest this, youngest that. That just seems to be a theme of my career, and I don't think it's something that I target, and it's not purposeful. It's just when you have someone, and I've fostered this culture in my department, is those people that are willing to roll up their sleeves and get to work, and they don't throw up their hands. It's not my job. And in conversation with Rick, I think that has been not just his past several months, but his career. And when he tells it of other city staff, it's always been, I'll handle it. So the idea to come to Flagler Beach is one for personal growth, but also personal enjoyment. And it is flattering out of, I think, is 57 applicants to be here this evening, to be down to the final 2. I'm hoping that speaks to something that sparked interest in each of you for various reasons. I hope that my demonstrated interest in the city has also been of curiosity to you. And I've just, overall, it's been a great process. It has been lengthy and thorough, and I think with COVID, I think it's been very responsible, and it's actually given us extra time to communicate, whether it was through the one-on-ones or the original panel interview. I think Ken Parker has done a great job. Your staff in supporting his efforts have done a great job. And in closing, with 4, 3, 2, 1, I want to go past 1 second. No, it's been a great opportunity to introduce myself to both you and the community. And if today the price is not right, understand that moving to Flagler Beach isn't necessarily dependent upon this position. If you ever need anything from me, right down the street currently and a phone call away. And it's been a great opportunity to get to meet everyone. So I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I noticed, I missed part of a question on number 2, if you want to write it down.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that.
So it would follow the period, what do you think are the top 5 issues that require the city managers?
The top 5 issues.
That require the city managers immediate attention, and why?
Thanks, Penny.
No problem.
You want to?
Probably be a good idea, just stand up, walk around there.
Okay, Penny, I've had a request for a break.
Sure. You want to recess? Please make sure all your microphones are off.
Ken's isn't.
basically, your interview will be an hour.
Is your microphone on, ma'am?
I'm sorry. You'll have 3 minutes to introduce yourself, tell us why you want this job, and then 55 minutes of questions submitted by the community, and a few minutes in there of follow-ups by the commission, and then 2 minutes that you can wrap up. Okay? All right, first question. Oh! Not that I'm anxious to get going.
Yeah. We all want this over.
Could you just wrap it up? No. Tell us about yourself.
Okay.
I'm terribly sorry.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Commissioners and fellow Flagler Beach folks. My name is William Whitson. I'm from a small town, and I grew up in a small town, and I love a small town. And I've been in the local government management business now for a long time. I started off in the great city of Pensacola, where I'm kind of from that area. So I say Pensacola because people don't know where Milton is.
But we
that's-
do because of our last
There
city
you
manager.
go. All right. So we'll say Milton. And that's where I hail from, and grew up there, and I have a long family history of service, and I'm very proud of that, and I want to finish my career out in good order and make folks proud because I'm in this for the service. And I got my degree there at the University of West Florida, both my undergraduate and my graduate degree, and was blessed to be nominated as a presidential management intern. That's the old federal program where they tried to identify management talent and bring it in. And I went to Washington, D.C. And spent 10 years, my first 10 years of my career, 5 in headquarters, Washington, and 5 in the field. And then got the opportunity to go back into my first love, which is local government. And been there ever since, either as a consultant or a manager or a department head. I spent time managing CRAs. I spent time as the number 2. I spent time as the manager. And so I do have a lot of background for you to go over, and my resume is too long, but it is what it is, and I'm very proud of the career that I've had and been blessed with. And I'd like to introduce very briefly, she'll kill me for this, but my boss, Miss Becky, she's in the back there. She came with me. It's a package deal. So you get the best of both worlds, and we've been married for 41 years. We have 3 children and 5 grandchildren, and I'm very delighted to be here and to have this opportunity to visit with you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And hi, back there. Welcome to Flagler. Okay, now the first question.
All right.
And again, these are from the community.
Sure.
How will you preserve the small beach town charm of Flagler Beach, yet advance such things as infrastructure and amenities for the residents?
Well, it's always a balance, isn't it? You have things here that make you unique and special, and you don't want to do away with those. You have a tremendous asset in the Atlantic Ocean right at your front door. You have tourism. You have a lot of things that other communities would just kill for. And you don't want to ruin those. You want them to remain special and yours. But at the same time, you've got to figure out a way to pay the bills, and you have to balance things out. And the infrastructure that supports is critical. You don't have a good wastewater treatment plant. You don't have good water, roads, those kinds of things. People can't live here and call this home. So, in fact, I was out at the wastewater treatment plant today, and your staff is amazing. They were so excited that I would even want to go out there, and I'm like, well, this is the bones of the community. This is where it all starts, and you have to have these things function. And so, yeah, I mean, you want to pay close attention to those things and make sure they're adequate. You want to find ways to bring in new revenue streams, but at the same time, you want to preserve what makes you special and unique. And it's about listening. It's about going out of your way to take care of problems and address issues. And I think you guys have a very bright future here.
We like to think so.
Yes.
Okay, the second one, with one being the most important in a list of five priorities. What do you think those top 5 issues are that, as a city manager, would deserve immediate attention, and why?
Well, great cities are made great because of the leadership. Y'all sit at the top. You listen to the community. You know your community, and you have to set that vision. My responsibility is to figure out how to make that vision happen. And what I would do right out of the box is talk about strategic planning. Let's go figure out where you want to go and what are the challenges, what are the things that need to be balanced. And let's get after it. Let's focus on those things. Make a list and figure it out, because that's very, very important. That's the heart and the core of a community. You know, anybody can come in and pave a road or, you know, do some new project, but what's important is to sequence those things together and make sure that they all work in a collective vision. And the vision starts with you, and you were elected by the people to do that. And then the staff, my responsibility is to figure out how to organize and make that happen. And you know, we're going to work together to find the resources to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. The next person wrote, I'd like to know your stance on growth and how to manage it while protecting the shorelines, the preserve, and the small town appeal.
Right. That's always very, very difficult. The small town appeal is what makes you special, but at the same time, people right up down I-95, they come here, and they're going to continue to come here. And so the 4th of July, I understand you guys are quite packed, you know, without COVID, right? So, I mean, people are going to discover you. You're going to be found. You're a jewel. The key here is to not go too quickly, to make sure that the right infrastructure is in place to support that growth. Let's take your wastewater treatment plant. I went out there today. You've got drying beds that were done in the 70s and the 80s, okay? But you haven't done much since then. Well, you've got to make that investment. You've got to make things happen so that it's good. And the engineer that came out and talked to me today said that if you make the right investments and you get some of the right grants in place, you can set your future for the next 50 years. That's good stuff. You need to do that. You need to pay attention to those investments because they're essential to who you want to be in the future. So those are the kind of things that you know, you look to build a community. You need good water, you need good roads, you need good sewers. You know, stormwater is always going to be a challenge because you're right on the intercoastal waterway there. I stopped by your treatment, the Public Works group this afternoon, and we had a nice chat about some public hearings where, you know, the public was fussing at them because of the drainage. Well, I'm sorry, when the tide's up, there's nowhere for that water to go. That's just the way it is. And did you notice that you lived on an island, you know? So those are the kind of education, you know, you work at it. That's a big challenge for a staff, but those men and women there, I was very impressed. They knew what they were dealing with, and they knew how to rise to the challenge. So I was pleased to have that exchange with them. I've been in some really ugly public meetings where the subject was drainage.
So have we.
Yeah, and it's not fun because sometimes there's just nowhere for that water to go, and there's nothing you can do about it. Frustrating.
Would you commit to pursuing funds to bury our overhead power lines to reduce visual pollution?
If the commission and the community set that as a goal, then yes. I think it makes a huge difference. When they came here, you're going to be celebrating your centennial in 25. There wasn't any power lines running around then. That's probably part of the appeal that brought people here to this island. So yeah, it'd be great to restore the community to its natural look, but there's a price tag to it. And the last time I checked, it was about a little more than $1 million a mile. So, you know, it's I think there's a city over in Orlando that kind of stepped up and decided they were going to do that, but they did it a piece at a time. And so maybe that's the approach you take. I don't know. But it has to be something everybody's in on because it is very expensive.
What is your experience in diversifying revenue sources so not to be dependent on the millage rate?
Well, I've been in that box before. And you just have to think creatively. And I'll give you one quick story about a meeting that I got thrown in the middle of, and then I'll tell you a couple of other things of how I've addressed that or tried to address that in other communities. We had this budget hearing one time with the commission, and finally they said, well, we're not going to raise taxes anymore. You can take this proposal and put it over here. So that meant, okay, the calculator's going off, we're close to $1 million short. And so we said, all right, time out, give us an hour, and we'll be back with some options. And so that's what we did. We huddled as a team, and we came back and said, okay, here's the choices that you have. And that's how I like to work in terms of a budget, is I go on decision modules, and I'll give you the options. Okay, you can cut this much if you trade this, those kinds of things. And I really like working that way because that puts the commission and the community on notice as to what the choices are, because it's not easy. You know, they don't print money here. They do up in DC, but not here. You got to balance the budget, right? And so in other places, I've done things, and I think I shared this in some of the interviews where, okay, we had an opportunity to bring in a new cell tower or to change out a lease that wasn't paying the city what it should have. In Port Orange, we had thousands of acres of well field land. Well, we created a way for those to generate money, like from forestry, from creating a wetland mitigation bank, and then there was a gopher tortoise layer, and there was a scrub jay habitat mitigation. So you just get with the staff, you get with the commission, you get with the citizens, and you brainstorm. And not every idea is going to hold water, right? But you go through that process, and somewhere, somehow, you come up with the right set of answers for your situation, and you do the work. That's how you do it. It's actually fun. in some ways.
How can urban sprawl prevention and wetland conservation be accomplished in Flagler Beach?
Urban sprawl and what?
Wetland conservation.
Well, those two don't mix.
No? Oh, yeah, didn't I say that? Urban sprawl prevention.
Oh. Well, again, it goes back to what is your vision? Okay, do you want to set a goal of conservation percentage in your community? And if so, okay, how can we go about that? There's a price tag to that. You know, do you want to take lots out of development? Do you want to have more pocket parks? Do you want to maybe partner with conservation groups and expand some of the nature preserves? I mean, there are different ways of approaching it. And you just would have to, again, go out there and gather all the ideas, go through the thinking process and figure out what you find to be the right balance for your community. There's no one size fits all for that kind of thing.
Have you ever worked with or provided consultations or otherwise been involved with developers?
Sure. You know, developers are great folks when they're wanting to do something, and I've found that you have to put it in writing and hold them to it. And there's the old joke about how do you know you're getting lied to by a developer, and you know the punchline is when their lips are moving. Okay, so you know, again, you take the Reagan approach to this thing. You know, you trust, but you verify, and you put everything in writing, and that's how you do it. And you have to understand that they have to make money. You want to see them be successful, right? Or otherwise, if they go bankrupt, all the bills go back your way. And one of the techniques that we used, and I have used in other communities, is we have put neighborhood associations together with mandatory rules where, you know, the roads and the drainage and all these other things are taken care of by the people that benefit from them. And those burdens, if you will, don't come back to the city. So you have to negotiate hard and make sure that it's in writing, because if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist.
Thank you. How would you have employees become more active identifying and resolving violations to city ordinances and codes, such as parking, speeding, non-road legal vehicles, so forth?
Well, if that was a goal that you had as a community, you would train for it. It's just like anyone else. You know, there are some communities that train their sanitation workers to spot different violations or things that the police department and the sanitation department talk to each other. And, you know, they say, hey, I'm looking for this character, or I'm looking for this kind of a vehicle, or whatever the issue of the day is. And so it's about communication, it's about training, and it's about vigilance to have more eyes and ears on the situation. One of the other things you can do is, of course, I'm a big fan of technology. And you have LPRs. In fact, the chief and I were talking about it this afternoon, about having LPRs in several places to know who's coming and going. So if crime deterrence or those kinds of issues are a challenge for your community, which I imagine they are. There's a lot of people coming across that bridge, and not all of them are wanting to stop at your shop and, you know, spend money and be a good citizen, unfortunately.
Eric's had his dealings with that.
There you go. So through a combination of training, communication, technology, those are the kinds of things you can do to get more folks focused on issues that you care about.
What steps would you take to ensure that residents are notified prior to major undertakings, such as, I'm sure you heard about our swell project,
Yes.
in order to better educate residents of an imminent need for such a project?
Well, I'm a big fan, again, COVID notwithstanding, of public meetings, of going out and taking City Hall to the streets, if you will, Saturday morning, kind of, let's get out and talk to people. Let's put out newsletters. Facebook's a big thing now. In fact, I was just watching a broadcast from Aransas County, Texas, where I work now, and they've lost water and they've lost power, and they were on the Facebook Live streaming, telling the residents why. Why is all this happening? And it was good that they were making the effort. Now, is everybody, gonna get the word? No, but a lot of people will, and maybe they'll share that with other people in the community. Social media is very powerful. Sites like Nextdoor are good. Facebook is good. Heck, I've tweeted a time or two. I don't know how many people tweet, but I've tweeted a few times. And, you have to take advantage of that technology, and you have to get with the times and, make the effort. It's the effort that you care about what people think, that you try to explain the fact that we may have to, that we have a gas line project coming through here and we may need to cut the water off for an hour or whatever the problem is, or we've had an accident on I-95 like the other night when I was coming in. And where is that accident and how long am I going to sit here? People care about that kind of stuff, and you just have to put yourself in their shoes as a citizen and make the effort.
Okay, what ideas do you have as far as, you went to the wastewater plant, you see what it needs? How would you go about fixing it?
Well, I think your engineer, Ben, is it, I believe, is on to something. And he is working with the staff down there. They got plans. They have potential for some grants coming up. Those are all good. They also need to figure out, apparently the salinity count is way off the charts. So they need to figure out a way to solve that problem. And then that's do the job, you're going to get in trouble real fast. There's all kinds of state and federal laws and things that have to be done, and they have to be done in the right way. So the staff is where I focus a lot of the time and attention, because they have to be ready. They have to be trained, and it's my responsibility to get them there. Another priority is obviously the budget. How do you pay for things? The nuts and bolts of the planning. You can't build a community from nothing, but at the same time, you can't tax people, so heavily that they don't want to be here, that they don't want to be part of it, or they don't see value in what you're doing. You have to bring value to the job every single day, and that's what the budget process is all about. Another pillar, obviously, is the mechanics of working with the utilities and, all of the things that come with, having a good wastewater treatment plant, with a good storm water system, a good water delivery system. I mean, those are the things that make a community. They're your bones. I wish, for example, I could just take people in a submarine and, just like you could dive out in the ocean, you could go under and see it. I wish people could get in a submarine and dive under the streets and see what's there. And I guarantee you, in many places, they wouldn't like what they would see, because it hadn't been taken care of, it hadn't been invested in. And if you're going to have a community, you have to invest in that. Okay? But of course, again, there's this whole question about how much. And it's that's where the commission comes in. Those are the strategic choices that you have to make. And I, as the manager, I'm going to bring you the options. I'm going to bring you the choices. And I'm going to bring you the best information I can. That's another key part of the job, is to stay informed and provide you with the best information that I can, the best knowledge that I can, so that you can make wise choices. So those are all the things that I love doing and I'm involved in. And as far as legislative stuff is concerned, been there, done that, wrote lots of legislative policies and priorities. But again, that's going back to the grants. If you have those kinds of relationships, you're going to find the funding out there to do what you want to do. It may take you longer than you want it to, but you'll find it. And you have to come at things that these problems, yes, they're complex, they're multifaceted, but they can be solved. And you just got to put the elbow grease to it and the resources to it, and you can do it. I hope that answers your question.
It did. All right, one more. So I remember when we were talking, you named all the hurricanes that you had been through, and I believe it was 7. If I
7.
Okay. So we've been through a number here, and we've been on and off state of emergency for the last 5 years. And we have pending items from 5 years ago.
You have some PAs open under Matthew.
Mm-hmm. So how do you as a city manager get closure to all of this? Because, we as a city can't keep on going if all this stuff we wait. So how do you tie up those loose ends so the end of Matthew happens and the end of this and the end of, because you've been through a lot of them. How do you close it out? Well,
again, it's called elbow grease, right? You identify the issues and you just put the effort in it. FEMA, there's no emergency anymore in the Federal Emergency Management Agency, okay? With all due respect to my federal colleagues. I mean, they'll let you drag on forever, and then when you don't get it done, they'll reallocate the money. In fact, there's a little city over in Texas that they thought they were getting their firehouse rebuilt, and they found out, no, we're not going to rebuild that. We're just going to pull our grant money. No, document, and you hold them to it, and you keep after it till you get it done, and you're the squeaky wheel until it gets done. I finished must have been 25, 30-page letter to FEMA the other day. You just you shoebox them, you know, you give them back their own medicine, and you hold them to it, and you keep after it, and you don't go away until it gets done. That's the way you do it, and there's no magic to it. It's all effort and understanding that the feds work through the state, and the state to the county, and the county down to the locals. And you got to know that system. You got to know who's pushing the buttons, and you know who to call, and you keep after it. And that's the way you do it. And you can't allow those things to go on and on and on. You've got to bring closure to it, because at some point they'll go looking for their money. Or worse yet, there's something you agreed to, you did, and then they'll come back and find some little detail that you didn't do, like you didn't follow 2 CFR. And, you know, one of the first things I'll do when I come in, should I be blessed to come in, is I'll check your procurement policies, your conflict of interest policies, all the other little things the auditors look for to disallow you. You don't let details undo good work. And you just got to know how they think, what they're interested in, and you keep after it. You make their priorities, since they operate by the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. So you so you think like they think, and you go after it, and you make sure that there's no excuse left on the table for them to not give it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
All right. During our city manager search, we've had several applicants drop out. What is it about our town that has held your interest and brought you through to this part of our process?
Because it's a good match. I like this community. I want to come back to Florida. It's my home. I got sand in my shoes. I think I bring some skill base that you need, and vice versa. There's some things that are happening here that interest me. For example, I would love to get my hands on those PAs and close them out. I think some of them involve the pier, if I'm not mistaken. The pier is the icon of the community. It's in your seal. How could you not close out that PA? Okay, that's critical to who you are. So stuff like that, I don't know. I'm a government person. I love government. I love public service, and this just seems like a place where you're interested in that, and maybe I can help.
All right. I guess I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit with this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Go for it.
I have a line within my rental application that asks anticipated length of occupancy. This is a question that gives me a perspective, otherwise unknown. That being said, what is your anticipated length of occupancy?
As long as you'll have me.
Okay. Good answer.
I had no idea where you were going.
Well, as long as I pay the rent, and as long as you'll have me.
I know where he was going with that one.
And as long as we're joking, on a lighter note, is there something about the air in Milton?
With the hurricanes.
You don't have to answer that.
No.
Rhetorical.
It's a good place.
Ken.
Welcome again. It was nice talking to you the other day as well.
Sir.
I have 3 questions. The first one is, what would be the first thing you're going to do the first day on the job?
Well,
Other than look at the beach.
I wouldn't be doing that. I might get up early and go look at the beach before I come into the office. But the second thing I'd do is I'd be setting up meetings with y'all, finding out where it is you want to go, what you want to do. And then the next thing I would do is I want to meet all the employees. I mean, I went around today some. I met a lot of them. I didn't meet them all. But I would want to do that. Just kind of get comfortable and settle in. I want a place that I can call home, and that would want me and want what I can do as a professional for the community. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. All right, the second question is, you've heard us talking about a lot about strategic planning, and we badly need that. So what would be, just very briefly, what would be the process that you'd set up, and what timeline would you use in order to set up a strategic planning for the commission here?
Right. Well, it depends on the level, right? Okay. There's a lot of ways to go. I was talking to, in full disclosure, a friend of mine who is a consultant who does that kind of work, but he was saying, look, William, I charge people more if they want a disc analysis. I said, a disc analysis? And he said, yeah. He says, we can give a test to every commissioner and every employee, department head or whatever, and we could find out, where they are on this Myers-Briggs type continuum, you know what I'm saying, and find out where the areas of consensus are likely to be, where the areas of conflict are likely to be. You say, well, I'll charge more for that. And then, okay, so you got that level of stuff going on, and then you've got, okay, the simpler approach, okay, the quick analysis. I would think somewhere in the middle is where we want to be, and I would think that I would gather up a bunch of different options for you, consultants that I'm aware of, people that I know in the business. I was instrumental, for example, in helping set up the local government Center of Excellence. Dr. Bob Lee, personal friend of mine. Would Dr. Lee want to put in a proposal to come and spend time with us? Reach out to some of the universities, some of the people that I know there. I don't know if you'd like the UGA people, but anyway, I know some of them. And I just give you a whole series of choices, price ranges, and we pick something and get it done.
Okay. And last
It just
question.
depends on the level
Yeah.
that you would want
Okay.
to do that.
Well, we need a level so we can make some money and be
There you go.
sustainable.
Well, you would do a SWOT analysis, right?
Right,
The strengths,
right.
weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, and last question. I know, like myself, you spent a lot of shoe leather pounding the streets on the legislative
Yes.
forums in Washington, D.C. area. What kind of contact have you had with legislators at the Florida level or at the local level that would help us in our particular initiatives as far as negotiating? Right now, we're going through the legislative process in Tallahassee,
Sure.
some of which I was watching on TV today, and it's crazy. But anyway, what experience have you had as far as direct contact with some of the legislators? Because I know you said you spent some of that. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be elaborate, just
Yeah.
some of the-
Look, I've done legislative policy and lobbying, education in Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia. It's all, I hate to say all the same, but they all care about the same things. They care about, well, what is it that I can do to help my constituency, right? And so I've been everywhere from being on the receiving end of an ugly call, like, who is this Whitson guy? Tell him to back off, okay? I've gone from that all the way to, conversations in the back halls of, like, okay, we need this grant for the Rose Bay effort, or we need this grant to expand our wastewater treatment plant, or those kinds of things. You name it, I've been involved in it, all the way from the legislative policy level. Like, for example, the Florida League of Cities puts together their legislative policy plan every year. Well, I've served on some of those committees, right? And so you get familiar with the issues and with what's the hot buttons that year, and you go up there and you make your case.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for, because you can't be shy.
Nope.
Okay.
And ain't nobody from there gonna care about you more than you care about what can get done, and that's just how you have to approach it. That basically you make the best case, and you go up there and you that's your money. Go get your share of it.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you very much.
Linda?
and we may have discussed this earlier, but what is your management style?
Well, my management style is very open and friendly. I like facts, numbers. I don't make decisions, not too many of them, on emotion. I like to walk around and see stuff for myself. You know, I'll write plenty of memos if that's, you know, what's needed, but I'd rather go see it. Like today, I just learned a ton by just hanging out down at the wastewater treatment plant. I went by and saw the guys' trucks, you know, the maintenance facility. I was in the maintenance facility. We went all through the firehouse. I mean, those are the kinds of things that I like to do. I like to put people at ease, and I like to be a problem solver. If I can help find a way to yes, let's go. If not, maybe we shouldn't. And I love laying out options. If you haven't picked up on that, that's what you're going to get in the budget process, is decision modules, right? Do you want it to slice the cucumber this way or that way? You know, what works for you? What's better for your community? What flavor of ice cream you like? You know, I mean, those are the kinds of things that happen in a community, and you have to get down to that level, and your staff knows. They know the level of resources we have to work with, and then what's possible.
I think that was module 2 of my training session, management by walking around.
Yeah, it works. It works.
Is that it? I enjoyed our discussion about the citizens' chalkboard budget planning. Could you, for the people who haven't been privy to that, would you explain it?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, I would need to find me a really good intern like I had that year to put it all together. She would. I was like, Sarah. She printed up money that had the city logo on it and everything, and we had a bunch of decision modules. We had revenue forecasts. We laid out the city's 10-year budget history because we had gone through some tough times. Just briefly, the city had the plant where they built Ford Sables was in the little city that I was manager of near the airport in Atlanta, and they closed it. And then the recession hit. So, I mean, there was a big hole in the budget. They hadn't had raises in years. It was a mess. And, of course, we were pulling out the other way, and they have all this pull and tug about, oh, we should do this and we should do that. And it got to be very, very ugly, to be honest with you. And so finally, we just put together a whole presentation on the budget. We put together all the decision modules of the things that needed to be addressed, and we gave them a stack of money and said, okay, here you go. If you're so smart, how will you solve this? And it really opened the eyes not only of some of the citizens, but the staff. And it was a great exercise, and it really helped us solve some communication problems, not only at the community level, but within the staff itself. So that's the citizens' chalkboard.
Okay, and I enjoyed that discussion.
Yeah. It was very productive.
Good. And one thing we still have some time that we haven't really talked about tonight was the CRA. You had various experiences.
Yes, ma'am. I've run 2 different CRAs in 2 different cities, one in Milton and then the main one in Panama City. There were 4 CRA districts, and I was director over all 4 districts. And I noticed on your website that you don't have your latest report up, or at least you have 2019's report. I don't know if there's a newer one. You have your ordinance up.
Don't think we did we do a 20?
But the statute requires you, every
That's
March
right,
you're
yeah.
due, the state says, where's my report? And then, of course, you have your CRA plan, and you have to take the TIF funds and fund projects that are within that designated area and within the plan. So you can't take the money and just go spend it down the road because you think it looks good. You got to spend it according to the plan and in the district. So those are the fundamentals. And we had 4 districts in Panama City, all of them different, all of them unique. St. Andrews was different than downtown North, and actually I actually helped extend the downtown CRA was about to expire, and I negotiated with the county and rewrote the plan, and they readopted for another 25 years, I think. So yeah, I've been there, done that.
Okay, good. Okay, does anybody else have anything? Okay, if you'll kind of summarize for us.
Sure. Well, I won't say anything different than I said the first time. I'm sold. I'm sold on this unique qualities of Flagler Beach. I'm sold on the fact that you want to keep the balance between small town and then the growth that's coming. You have some real strategic choices to make because you love what's unique and small town about it, but at the same time, you have bills to pay. You have services that have to be delivered, and there's a lot of challenges environmentally. So am I the right person to solve those problems? I think I have the right experience. I think that I would hopefully bring you options that would work. And I promise you this, you'll not find anyone, anywhere, that would give it their most hard, dig in and do the hard work that it takes to do this job. I'll be honest, I'll be straightforward, I'll bring you the information, and I'll share with you how I would recommend you go, but I'll never demand. I would always let you choose. And then if you choose, we're going to go this way, we're going to get this done by this date, I'll do it. That's the kind of manager I am, the kind of person I am, and that's what I would like to do for the community if you'll so honor me with that choice. So.
Okay, thank you so much, Ron.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so yes, we
I'll
will
make a
look for an
motion-
adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the
I'll second it.
workshop portion.
Everybody in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
aye.
And then we move on. I don't know, Penny, do you need a minute to? All right, we'll move on to the special meeting. This is a special meeting of the Flagler Beach City Commission. It is still Wednesday, February 17, 2021. And we will continue until all items are complete. So we now are looking to see if we are ready to choose our new city manager. Do you feel like you're ready to move on?
Let's start all over.
But it has to be done before March 2nd. So you
I'm ready
don't
to
get out
get it
of
over
it.
Ready.
You're ready?
We're there.
Okay.
Just
Debbie,
to
you ready?
remind you that section 2 of your code of ordinance requires, manager shall be appointed by 4/5 of the full commission. And, after speaking with the city attorney tonight, he stated that technically you didn't need that full 4/5 to direct him to go into contract negotiations. However, you should consider when that contract comes before you, you might not have that 4th vote, so.
Okay. Penny has provided us with
Yep.
a sheet. Liz provided us with a sheet. Nobody has any need to discuss or.
So you want a
anything.
1 and a 2? 1 being the choice and 2 being second.
And what I'll do is I'll tabulate, be really quick, tell you that.
We're going to miss you, Mayor.
She'll do it from out there.
Yeah.
Microphone. You have 4 number 1 choices for Mr. Whitson and 4 number 1, or I'm sorry, 2.
What?
I'm ready to go home. And 2 number 1 choices for Mr. Driscoll.
Okay. So is that 4/5? That's the right, that's what we need, right?
Well, 4 to approve a contract, yes.
Yeah.
4 to hire, 3 to fire.
Yeah, okay. All righty.
Well, about if I make a motion that,
Well, and you
No.
need to be aware of that too. One of your, well, no, I don't think it's an issue.
What, that the mayor voted?
She did participate in this,
Yeah.
but that was,
It's okay.
I mean, if you're going with the majority of what your votes were, it's okay.
All right. Okay, so the next step then is a motion, and you have it written in front of you. You wanted to do it, right?
yeah, I'll make a motion that we name William Whitson to be offered the position of city manager, subject to negotiating a contract and approval of the contract by the city commission.
Second.
That was you, Ken?
Yes.
And I am gonna do a voice vote.
Yes,
on that.
I want to vote. Yes. I can't talk.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes to the motion.
Commissioner Bellheimer,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes to the motion.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Mealy, Chair
Yes.
Mealy, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so it is a unanimous vote, which is
That makes
great.
it easy then.
Huh?
Makes it easy.
Yeah, so the next step then is for us to ask Drew to contact Mr. Whitson and negotiate. All right, Ken had said that we need to set dates and such, but I think that's up to Drew and William to. You cutting me off?
We gonna recall Mr. Whitson?
No,
No?
we're not
Okay, it
doing
was
that.
written
That-
this way. Okay,
No,
wasn't sure. Okay.
I will be in touch with both of them and let them know what the commission's decision was. And again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of the process and having to work with you.
and we appreciate that, all the
Thanks a lot,
work that
Ken.
you did
Thank you
for
very
us.
much.
Did a great job.
Yeah, this was a very pleasant process. You made it so for us. Thank you.
Made it much easier than it could have ended up being, for sure.
Very timely.
And I will provide you with a final update and final report. And in that report will also be how much you spent on me.
I don't know about that.
It was a small amount.
I'm not worried. All right, but as far as the time frame that that you had established. I think we just leave it up to Drew and,
It would be up to the city, who's
Yeah.
negotiating the contract and getting it back to you as quickly as possible.
yeah.
And that will be Drew. This will be-
Mhm.
will be-
Everybody's good with Drew doing negotiating. It
Yes.
seems appropriate, yeah. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All righty, any objection to me seeing if anybody wants to make a comment, since they all sat through all of this?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Anybody
Share
in
feedback.
the public? Oh, sorry. Anybody in the public wish to just make a comment or ask a question? Can't pass a microphone by.
It's a,
Sure.
there you
Hey,
go.
Hey.
just want to say congratulations. It's been an interesting time, and with Larry's passing, who was also a mentor of mine, it's nice to see that we are bringing someone with experience. Even though both candidates, I think Drew really did a great job with a lot of his answers, very polished, very professional. Will, I think he beat him out a little bit more because we do need that experience. We do need some of those closures. Eric made a heck of a question there. There's in the last 5 years with all the hurricanes. It's just nice to see that our city's progressing in the right direction. So thank you guys for all your time, and I appreciate being part of this today.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
Joseph Pizzulli, local businessman, resident. I'm glad to see that this moved forward quickly. I wish I had paid more attention earlier. One of the observations I made, I saw that you asked specific questions to Drew, and then you asked specific questions to William, but you had more questions for William than Drew. I think Drew actually answered the questions more directly than William. William kind of drifted off a little bit. That's just my observation. I hope I am happy with the decision that you all made. Being a resident, he has the experience. Time will tell. It's all good. Congratulations.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
hanging out,
Joseph.
Joe.
Sorry, okay. Kim Carney, Flagler Beach. Yeah, having sat through Larry and missing Larry very much, it is painstaking, but it is part of your job. So I think you did a great job. I think you picked the right guy. I did not get very involved until you guys got it down to one or two or three. And it is an experience thing. So I think you're going to be happy with that. I hope you are. And thank you for opening up the wonderful line of questions. You did a great job with all of that. And the process, though painstakingly, I think you got it right. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. Anyone else? Okay,
Madam Chair?
yes.
I'll just follow up, for clarity, each one of us also had an opportunity to interview each one of those candidates last week. I personally spent over an hour with each one of them, asking them different questions that we'd all had, and I think each one of the others did as well. So some of the detail that may not have been covered tonight had been covered by us
Absolutely.
individually. So, but it was a great observation by Mr. Pizzoli. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Would somebody
Motion to
make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
I forgot, didn't you,
Thought I
Jake?
had learned.
Lasted one whole week.